Next on the Rockbridge Report. I sat down with Rockbridge Report's Grayson Duran to talk about her reporting on the national truck driver shortage and how that shortage impacts businesses right here in Virginia.
One of the biggest issues that there is the high average age of truckers in the industry.
And we will show you President Trump's explanation for why he walked away from the negotiation table with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un at the summit in Vietnam.
In Virginia's capital, the First Lady of Virginia is under fire. We'll tell you why.
Walmart moves to phase out its familiar blue-vested greeters at some 1,000 stores nationwide. Many disabled workers who serve as greeters are worried about what will happen once their position is eliminated.
It's a beautiful day here in Lexington, Virginia, with 60-degree temperatures and mostly clear skies. Students enjoying the weather here on the colonnade. However, this weather is not here to stay in Lexington, with low temperatures and winter precipitation predicted this weekend and early next week.
All that and more coming up on the Rockbridge Report.
Live from the campus of Washington and Lee University with news from Rockbridge County, this is the Rockbridge Report.
Good evening and welcome to the Rockbridge Report. I'm Caroline Blackman.
And I'm Sophie Badani.
Israel's Attorney General recommends indicting Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu with bribery, fraud, and breach of trust in a series of corruption cases. Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit announced his decision after more than 2 years of intense investigations and deliberations. The final decision on indictment will take place after a hearing, where Netanyahu is given the opportunity to defend himself. That process is expected to take many months and be completed long after Israel's upcoming elections on April 9th. The second summit between President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un ends early and without a deal. CNN's Karen Kafa joins us from Washington with the latest details and reaction.
After the hopes of denuclearization and even talk about an official end to the Korean War, the summit in Hanoi between President Trump and North Korea's Kim Jong-un ends without a deal.
I think actually it was a very productive 2 days, but sometimes you have to walk.
Just before President Trump was set to take questions from reporters, the White House issued a statement. No agreement was reached at this time, but their respective teams look forward to meeting in the future. A signing agreement had been on the schedule, as was a working lunch, and neither happened. The press conference with the president happened 2 hours earlier than planned. A key sticking point, Trump said, the international sanctions in place on North Korea that have crippled Kim's economy by limiting their trade with the world. The president said North Korea wanted all of them lifted in exchange for closing some, but not all, of their nuclear sites.
They wanted the sanctions lifted in their entirety, and we couldn't do that. They were willing to denuke a large portion of the areas that we wanted, but we couldn't give up all of the sanctions for that.
Still, the White House called the sessions productive, talking about ways to get toward denuclearization and economic ideas other than lifting the sanctions. Trump said the summit ended warmly and that it was a very friendly walkout.
While Trump was sitting face-to-face with Kim in Vietnam, his former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, sat before Congress and testified that his longtime boss, the president, has lied about business dealings and his personal life, calling him a racist, con man, and cheat. Today, Cohen is appearing behind closed doors for a House Intelligence Committee interview, the last of 3 appearances before Congress this week. Here is part of Trump's reaction to Cohen's public testimony.
I think having a fake hearing like that and having it in the middle of this very important summit is really a terrible thing. They could have made it 2 days later or next week, and it would have been even better. They would have had more time. But having it during this very important summit is sort of incredible. And he lied a lot, but it was very interesting because he didn't lie about one thing. He said no collusion with the Russian hoax. And I said, I wonder why he didn't just lie about that too, like he did about everything else.
CNN's Omar Jimenez has highlights from that hearing on Capitol Hill.
Since taking office, he has become the worst version of himself.
President Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, blasting his former boss.
He is a racist, he is a con man, and he is a cheat.
Cohen presenting a copy of a $35,000 check as evidence Trump directed hush money payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels.
President of the United States thus wrote a personal check for the payment of hush money as part of a criminal scheme to violate campaign finance laws.
Cohen says then-candidate Trump also knew WikiLeaks would release emails damaging to Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign.
Mr. Trump knew from Roger Stone in advance about the WikiLeaks drop of emails.
And Cohen claims Trump lied during the presidential campaign about his intentions to develop a Trump Tower in Russia.
He lied about it because he never expected to win.
Republicans say, as they have throughout the hearing, that Cohen isn't credible. The now disbarred lawyer pleaded guilty to tax crimes, campaign finance violations, and lying to Congress.
The first announced witness for the 116th Congress is a guy who is going to prison in 2 months for lying to Congress.
Cohen will go to prison in May for 3 years.
I made mistakes. I own them.
The mother of a black 8th grader in Virginia says the governor's wife gave her daughter a piece of cotton while explaining the history of slavery. The mom says it happened while several children, who are state Senate pages, were on a tour of the governor's mansion. Leah Dozier Walker works in the State Department of Education, and her daughter was one of those kids. She says Pam Northam handed the cotton to her daughter and the only other 2 African-American pages in the group. Dozier says the state's first lady then asked them to imagine what it was like to pick cotton all day. Northam apologized for the incident and said it's the same tour she gives all visitors. The governor's office says the cotton was handed to everyone in the group, not just the 3 African Americans. Virginia state government is holding a public hearing on a plan to enact permanent rules for rallies at a massive statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee on Richmond's historic Monument Avenue. The Department of General Services announced Wednesday the hearing is set for March 6th at the Virginia War Memorial Carillon. The state is seeking to replace emergency regulations with permanent rules that cut the maximum crowd size from 5,000 to 500 and ban weapons at permitted events. Former Governor Terry McAuliffe enacted emergency rules in 2017 in response to deadly white nationalist rally in Charlottesville. The proposed regulations would also require permits for events expected to draw 10 participants or more.
For the first time since the Clinton administration, the House of Representatives passes significant gun control legislation. Although it passed on a bipartisan basis, sides are drawn and opinions mixed.
H.R. 8 gets the nod from the House Wednesday.
On this vote, the yeas are 240 and the nays are 190. The bill has passed without objection.
The measure requires background checks for virtually all firearms sales in the U.S., and supporters say it will
reduce gun violence in our country and take more steps to improve the safety of the American people.
But critics disagree.
Gun control measures do not address the problems of gun violence, and this bill will not address gun violence.
Right now, licensed gun dealers have to perform background checks to sell a weapon. Unlicensed sellers don't have to. This bill closes that loophole.
Can we guarantee that this will work to make every person safe? It cannot. It will not. But I rise in strong support of doing something.
That criminals don't abide by the law, and this would only create traps for law-abiding gun owners.
8 Republicans voted in favor of the bill, 2 Democrats voted against it. The bill heads to the Senate, where it isn't expected to pass in the GOP-led chamber. I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Majority Whip John Thune, who is the second highest ranking Republican in the Senate, says it's unlikely that the bill will be taken up by the Senate anytime soon. Slow and steady wins the race. That's the tone the Federal Reserve is taking with interest rates. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell told Congress this week that he is in no hurry to raise interest rates, which impact the cost of mortgages, credit cards, and other borrowing. He says he expects to do so twice in 2019, not 3 times as previously planned. That policy adjustment signals the central bank sees uncertainty and a slowdown in the economy. Muted inflation, financial market volatility, and uncertainty about trade negotiations with China were all mentioned as reasons to hold steady.
The FOMC determined that the cumulative effects of these developments, along with ongoing government policy uncertainty, warranted taking a patient approach with regard to future policy changes. And that gives us the ability to be patient with monetary policy, and that's what we're going to do. With our policy rate in the range of neutral, with muted inflation pressures, and with some of the downside risks that we've talked about, this is a good time to be patient.
Powell says the bank will continue to monitor incoming data to decide whether to raise or lower rates in the future. President Trump has openly called for the bank to keep rates steady. In an interview Marketplace on Monday, former Fed Chairwoman Janet Yellen said she doesn't believe the president understands monetary policy or what the Fed does.
In the 2020 presidential race, a rising star in the Democratic Party is about to make a big announcement. Will he or won't he? Former Congressman Beto O'Rourke of Texas has yet to say if he will run for president, but that news is coming soon. Wednesday, he made a coy statement saying, "Amy and I have made a decision about how we can best serve our country. We are excited to share it with everyone soon." Although exactly when, O'Rourke is keeping quiet on that. But a source close to the 46-year-old says he has ruled out running for Senate in 2020.
I'm going to be making an announcement soon. I'm going to be making the same announcement to everyone at the same time. And that's all I can say at this time.
Walmart moves to phase out its familiar blue-vested greeters at some 1,000 stores nationwide. Disabled workers who fill many of those jobs say they're being ill-treated by a chain that styles itself as community-minded and inclusive. America's largest private employer told greeters around the country that their positions would be eliminated on April 26th. The role will evolve and expand to include more physically demanding work, or what Walmart is calling a customer host role. To qualify, they will need to be able to lift 25-pound packages, climb ladders, and stand for long periods.
At the Lexington Fire Department, 4 firefighters do the work of 18 people. The understaffed department often looks to volunteers in surrounding areas to help with local emergencies. Volunteers from Kerrs Creek had to be called on to put out a tree fire on Jackson Street on Sunday. The Lexington Fire Department has asked the city for funding to hire a new firefighter. That would mean 5 full-time firefighters per shift, still at least 11 short of the national standard.
Crawford Humphreys joins us next to give us a look at tomorrow's forecast and if we should expect any rain this weekend.
And later, we will show you what reporter Grayson Duran has to say about the shortage of truck drivers. Sat down with her earlier today.
An emergency has been declared in California's wine country as rising floodwaters engulf communities, triggering evacuation orders and leaving thousands swamped. CNN's Kim Hutcherson has the latest.
We're asking you to get out now.
A warning sent to people in Sonoma County, California, after rising floodwaters washed out roads, leaving thousands cut off.
For those who have received an order to evacuate but cannot get out because of roads, we do ask that you shelter in place.
Torrential rains have caused the Russian River that rushes through California's wine country to break its banks, turning roads into rivers, swamping cars and buildings, and isolating at least one community.
It happened out of nowhere.
And we had tried to get out to see if we could canoe, and the whole canoe flipped, so.
What was going through my head was, I want to live. I want to survive. I want me and my wife to survive this.
The river is expected to crest at over 46 feet, more than 10 feet higher than flood stage. Flooding isn't the only threat people are facing. Landslides, mudslides, and falling trees are wreaking havoc across the county. Some people saying everything they've worked so hard for is now gone.
We live over there, and it's not anymore. No more cars. We lost everything.
I'm Kim Hutcherson reporting.
Well, it was just a beautiful day today, very sunny. I just had to sit outside and do some work.
It was. Crawford, can we expect this to last for much longer?
It was a great day today. Maybe a little foreshadowing of what to expect this spring, but sadly, we're going to go back to our normal February and early March weather the next couple days. Let's take a look at the numbers real quick. We will start with our live shot of Lexington, Virginia. As I said, a beautiful day. What we expect to see this March, April, and May. partly cloudy skies, the sun getting out just a little bit, and temperatures in the 60s, even though it started out at 36 degrees this morning. The barometric pressure, 30.05 inches of mercury, and the wind speed, 8 miles per hour, a little cool breeze today, and 45% humidity. As we move on to the local radar, no precipitation in the area today. However, the next couple days, that is expected to change, and we'll get to that at the 5-day forecast. But first, let's look at our conditions around the area. As you see, Roanoke, 60 degrees. They were the highest today. Buena Vista at 55, Lynchburg at 55, Lexington currently at 55, but everyone in the area above 50 degrees. For February, that's pretty good. And we'll finish with our 5-day forecast. Tomorrow, the temperature is expected to drop significantly, a high of 39 degrees and cloudy. Saturday, it'll warm back up a little bit, and maybe we'll see a little bit of sunshine with a high of 54. Then Sunday, it's going to be cold and rainy, a high of 44 and a low of 29. That temperature continues to drop into Monday, where snow is expected, a high of 40 and a low of 21. And the temperature continues to drop even further into Tuesday. It'll be sunny, but a low of 16 degrees. That's all for the weather. Caroline and Sophie, back to you guys.
Thanks, Crawford. Coming up next, we'll show my sit-down with reporter Grayson Duran, who has been reporting on the truck driver shortage. She talks about how serious this shortage is and what this means for businesses and store owners in Virginia.
Walmart actually just increased their pay this month. So their drivers can actually earn about a little bit over $87,000 a year, which is very different from the national average, which is about $42,000.
The U.S. is experiencing a labor shortage in the trucking industry. Companies are hiring, educational institutions are offering licensing programs, but there are still many empty driver seats. Through incentives and new programs, these groups hope to attract more drivers to the industry. I sat down this afternoon with Rockbridge Report's Grayson Duran and first asked how demands have increased on the trucking industry.
As consumers are wanting their items delivered to their front door more and more, it's really important that the trucking industry keeps up with that.
Gotcha. So you kind of touched on it just then, but what exactly created this shortage of drivers?
So one of the biggest issues that there is the high average age of truckers in the industry. It's 49 years old. So as a lot of these drivers are starting to retire, there's been an issue in trying to find or to attract younger generations to the industry.
So how are these truck driving schools attracting more students, especially around here where we live?
So there's one in particular, so CDS Tractor Trailer Training partnered with several community colleges back in 2012 to provide more programs for aspiring truck drivers. So they have a part-time course and they also have a full-time course, and the full-time course allows students to get their commercial driver's license within at least, I think, in as few as 4 weeks.
Gotcha. And where is that?
That's in the Roanoke area, in particular to who I spoke with at Virginia Western Community College.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
So these trucking firms are all competing for drivers. So what incentives do they offer to entice drivers to come to their particular firm?
So one in particular that we're seeing is higher pay. So Walmart actually just increased their pay this month. So their drivers can actually earn about a little bit over $87,000 a year, which is very different from the national average, which is about $42,000.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what, in your opinion, is the forecast in the trucking industry? Do you think that they'll succeed in attracting enough drivers to keep up with this demand?
Well, they're obviously going to have to make changes. The American Trucking Association predicts that if there are no changes made, the industry will be short 174,000 drivers by 2026.
The truck driver shortage is one of many skilled labor shortages in the United States. You can read Grayson's full story about the shortage on rockbridgereport.wlu.edu.
And while we're talking about the trucking industry, someday your FedEx package could be delivered by a robot, and it might happen sooner than you think. The company announced Wednesday it is testing a delivery robot it calls the Same Day Bot. It has 6 wheels, can carry 100 pounds, and can even climb stairs. The design resembles the iBot, a self-balanced wheelchair Segway inventor Dean Kamen engineered in 1990s. His newer company, Deca, designed FedEx's new robot. One thing Same Day Bot won't do is leave your package at your door. You have to be home to accept it. Other companies like Amazon and some startups are also experimenting with delivery robots. Some experts worry they will cost jobs, but FedEx says robots will create new jobs that pay more.
Pink hearts, yellow moons, orange stars, and green hops. A new beer from a Virginia brewery evokes Lucky, the leprechaun's chant, and that's by design. Smart Mouth Brewing Company even markets Saturday Morning Brew by calling it magically ridiculous. Much like the oat cereal the beer harkens, the IPA is sweetened with marshmallows, but don't worry, they won't be floating in your glass. Marshmallows, both toasted and the bulk dehydrated kind, are used during the brewing process.
Next, Rockbridge Report's Coleman Martinson joins us to bring us some scores from around Lexington and Rockbridge County. Coleman Martinson joins us next to tell us about the Eagles' decision to not hold on to Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles.
And former President H.W. Bush's service dog has a new job. We'll tell you what his new duties include after the break. So Washington and Lee saw big ODAC tournament wins this past week.
That's right. We won men's track and women and men's swimming as well. Have we seen that same winning attitude with our high school sports?
We've come close with a lot of high school teams in the area, but not quite a state championship. But for the NFL, in that news, Nick Foles will be a free agent in March after the Philadelphia Eagles decided not to use the franchise tag on Foles. A franchise tag would have allowed the Eagles to keep Foles on the team another year while trying to negotiate a new contract. But Foles told the team he wished to find a new team. Foles stepped in for the Eagles starting quarterback Carson Wentz in the fall of 2017 when Wentz tore his ACL. Foles then led the team to its first NFL title since 1960 and was the Super Bowl MVP. Foles continued to play after Wentz hurt his back this past season and again led the team through a successful season. Howie Roseman, the general manager for the Eagles, said it's hard to let Foles go, but that he deserves an opportunity to lead a team. The two boys relay teams for Perry McClure High School finished in the top 3 at the state meet yesterday. Cooper Brady, Holden Carr, Brendan Plogger, and Caleb Workman finished second in the 4x400 meter relay. Dylan May, along with Brady, Workman, and Plogger, placed third in the 4x800 meter relay. The overall boys teams and field teams finished in 12th of 39 scoring teams at the meet. The girls team also had a strong showing despite not placing in team standings. Sophie Dryden placed 9th in the mile race and 16th in the 1,000 meter run. Grayson Shields placed 11th in the shot put event. The Lady Blues basketball team will take on Patrick Henry Gladespring at Christiansburg High School tomorrow in the state tournament quarterfinals. The team defended its Region 1C championship this past Saturday, beating Galax 59-46. However, the boys basketball team had a close 55-53 loss to Auburn in the region semifinals last Thursday. The game concluded their season. The Rockbridge County High School girls track and field team had one of their best seasons at the state meet, placing 11th out of 29 scoring teams. Rockbridge County High School's Daniel Crawford won the state title in shot put this past Saturday. The senior's winning throw traveled 38 feet and 7 inches. Sarah Torrance finished 5th in the 2-mile race. Farron Dick placed 10th in the mile, and Haleyana Hamilton placed 3rd in the high jump. The boys' team placed 26th of 30 scoring teams. Shot putter Noah Lawhorn finished 7th, Isaac Connors placed 10th, and Josh Warzeniak finished 13th in the mile race. The Rockbridge County girls basketball team lost to Brookville 53-34 on February 15th, ending their season. Their final record for the season is 9-19. The boys basketball season is also over. They suffered a close 68-66 loss to Heritage on February 19th. They end their season 14-11. That's it for local sports in this area. Back to you guys.
And that's all for the Rockbridge Report today. Thanks for watching. Join us next Tuesday at 3:30 for our live news update, or click on our stories anytime at rockbridgereport.wlu.edu.